welcome back. You're all cupped up. Is that good? Good. Before we start the second half, I do want to say a few words of thanks and talk a little bit about our second half piece. Putting on a concert, especially during these COVID times, is challenging, and so I want to give a shout out to the board and the volunteers for helping out. Can I just have a round of applause? We're one of the. Oh, I'm just do this. Is it okay? Yeah. 16. We're one of the only community orchestras where the board is separate from the musicians. In our bylaws, musicians are not allowed to serve. I'm not allowed to serve on the board. So there's sort of this checks and balances, like a good government should be, right? So, just wanted to say we are actually in need of more board members. This is actually we have a great board, but a lot of them have been on the board for many years. They're kind of looking for some new blood, a little bit of a break. So if you have any interest in joining the board, it's really not that huge of a time commitment. First Wednesday of the month, we meet at my place. We have dinner served for you, and we just have a meeting. And it's Zoom friendly. If you're remote, that's fine as well. Pretty much, come to the concert, help out with things. So if you are interested, you have some time and talents. I'm not asking, the whole Tesla stock thing. That's not what it was last concert. So I know a lot of you are paying, so I'm not going to ask for a share of stock anymore. It's not a pleasant time to do that. So anyway, but yeah, if you want to join the board, please consider doing that. Next group I want to recognize, of course, is our fearless musicians. Playing during COVID times, a lot of them have to do multiple tests to make sure in fact, we have a couple of folks that are missing the concert because they tested positive and had to miss this week and they couldn't play the concert. So it's been a real challenge. So please, if I could, let's have a warm applause for all the musicians that get the challenge. You're all volunteers, including myself, so everyone has their own jobs and stuff, and we come together because we love music, and it's been so grateful the fact that we've been able to get through this entire season. I mean, last fall, the Omicron surge, we still did 3 concerts. I think that just is a testament to how much we all love to make music together. The last group I want to recognize are actually a bunch of folks sitting in the audience, and that is all of you. And the reason why is because, it's not, you can see the audience is a little bit thinner than it was in the previous concerts. COVID cases are up a bit. And I think that's contributing a bit to, why some people aren't here. But all of you coming here, obviously, are taking a bit of risk. But it's so different playing to a live audience compared to playing to in a rehearsal. So if I could, let's have the orchestra. Your presence means way more than the $10 that you paid for your ticket or whatever. Yeah. So thank you so much. By the way, just quick word. Some of you may have noticed that my shoes are not the most stylish. I had one person comment. It's not intentional. I actually have my dress shoes, but I left them in the car. So by the time the concert started, I was like, oh shoot, my shoe. I knew I forgot something, so I just went casual. But there's actually a good reason. If you notice the entrance, I actually realized 2 weeks ago when I'm going to retire from PSSO. And that is when I can no longer jump on the stage. So if I can't get on the stage, I can't conduct, and then I will retire. And I did notice these shoes are easier to jump onto the stage with than the normal dress shoes. So that might be a sign I'm getting to that age where I need some assistance, So. Anyway, for those of you who are, interested in how long I'll be conducting, that's the litmus test right there. Well, so let me tell you a little bit about this next piece, our Meet and Pickles Sibelius. Now, Sibelius isn't a mainline Western European composer like Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, those sorts of folks. And I say that because most classical music you listen to, it's quite linear. There's melodies, there's harmonies, there's a line you can follow, you can hum, blah, 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 and you're like, oh, you're probably going to be humming that on the way home, right? Sibelius was an entirely different composer. He composed more in terms of taking small motifs and developing them. So almost think of it more like an artist where you paint a little thing here and you create almost an imagery, a tapestry, rather than something where you're developing a melodic line. And he was actually probably the most, definitely, without question, the most popular composer of Finland. And Finland, of course, has been in the news recently a little bit, right? So let me tell you a little about the whole history there. So this piece was composed 2 years before that October Revolution that we played in for the previous piece. And prior to that, basically, Finland was part of that whole regime I was telling you about. The emperor, they had all these things. Well, they actually sort of were, Finland was subservient to the Russian Empire. And in the decades into the revolution, the Finns were like, we got defeated by Sweden, now by Russia. We should have our own national identity. So they said Finnish will be the national language, and there started to be this growth of national fervor. And Sibelius is credited with his sound of music is credited with defining the Finnish national identity. So that, and you can just think of the timing. Basically, when the Russian Revolution happened, that Russian Empire collapsed in 1918. A year afterward, Finland declared their independence. So basically, that revolution was also the start of Finland's independence. And of course, you can imagine this piece being a big part of that. Fast forward to World War II. Russia said, hey, we'd like to have more land, so they actually invaded Finland, again, and with a lot more troops, a lot more weapons. The Finns were overpowered, but they actually still repelled the Russians out. Just like what's suffering there on Ukraine, right? Yeah. And by the way, you see some of these gold beads. It's not because they're at Mardi Gras and, because, of course, it's gold colored, and I'm still wearing my blue mask, partly by accident, but I was like, that's half of the Ukrainian flag, so I'll keep it on. Anyway, so basically, in some ways, the story of Finnish independence and it's very representative of what we hope will happen with Ukraine. So that's a little bit of the story. I think it's a great little tie-in. Don't you think, the storyline? And by the way, this was commissioned as the 50th birthday of Sibelius. So you can imagine, there's a 50th anniversary, so there's the 50-50 thing, that's a little mathematical tie-in there. So let me tell you a bit about the piece and what to listen for. So the opening movement, a lot of Sibelius's work is attributed to nature. And I think this first movement is a great example. It starts with this seed of an idea, ba 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 bum, just that little idea, right? And if you ever, try to plant something to grow something to eat, like a tomato, you can imagine there's a seed, and over the course of the movement, it develops, and you have a cherry tomato, right? And all of a sudden, he adds more color, more instrumentation, more richness, becomes 2 cherry tomatoes, becomes a slightly bigger tomato. And so eventually this thing grows, and what you're going to find is in the middle of the movement, there's going to be this arrival point, this really majestic point where that same little motif, ba 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 ba, is played majestically by the trumpets. And at that point, you got a tomato this big. They're gonna win the global tomato competition, And by competition, I mean push out Russia back to their side of the line. That's the Q word, right? Okay, so that's the first one, and then it kind of comes back down. And once they have that sort of confidence, what the second half of the first movement is this sort of slow, gradual build-up of just slight acceleration, slight excitement, and to the very end of the movement is this crazy sort of just big fanfare. It ends with a big burst of energy, and they've won the tomato competition. Yes. The second movement is just this lovely. I sort of think of the second movement almost as a representation of the inward Finnish culture, if you will. It's basically a theme and variation. So it starts just with some horns, and then you'll hear this pizzicato, bump, 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 and there's this very simple theme. And he develops this with different variations to make just a really interesting tapestry of music. One thing to listen for, there's going to be moments where you're going to hear this sort of dissonant half step played in the winds, and then resolves, right. And so you might be thinking, are they playing a wrong note? And that's not to say we don't play. We do play wrong notes. I mean, you only pay $10, and so we do play wrong notes. But if there's a wrong note that lasts for, if it's played very confidently and the wrong note lasts, it's probably the right note. Okay, that's what Sibelius wanted. That wasn't some person like, oh, whatever. Okay, finally I'll fix the note. You know, that's not what's happening. So listen for that in the second movement. It's quite interesting overlay to the little melodies that are happening. The third movement starts with this. Just like this sort of excited tremolo melody in the strings that happens for a bit, and then it leads into what actually Sibelius associated with when he saw a bunch of swans flying out of this flock and them calling to each other. That's actually what he used as the central theme of this third movement. It's also you're going to hear it in the horns. Basically, the lower two horns, the upper two horns, they go back and forth, super triumphant. And if this is, doesn't give you hope that we're going to end up in a better place, from where we are today, I don't know what will. So I hope you enjoy it. The last I'll mention is the ending of this piece is weird. This is the only piece. I mean, it's very triumphant. You think, you think it's going to be like a John Williams thing. No, it doesn't end like that. It has this grand ending, but then at the very end, there are 6 notes, 6 chords played with like multiple seconds of gap between the notes. So you're going to be at this ending, and you're going to hear this chorus, this side, and you're going to be very uncomfortable because you're going to be like, is it ended? About now. So if you want to not have that angst, just count to 6. Once you get to 6, the piece is done. Let's start clapping. So, hope you enjoy Sibelius Symphony No. 5. Thank you.